Jesus James Angleton, the way you spin that story round. Always sharp, just like a tack when you're tracking the price of the dollar and pound. But drop the narrative, that thing that you inherited. Your history homos chariot just pulled up outside. Scott, William, Patrick on the scene, they're breaking up the subroutine. Something's crackling in your brain, and K-Ultra make you go insane. Hey, don't you know we're only on the case for a good time, baby? Took a rose pill, now I'm reading these books for a long time, baby. Honeypots and psyop traps, you can trust the plan until you snap. Slop conspiracy everywhere. History homos clear the air. Close your eyes, what's truth or lie? Hiding in the space between realities, a tangled scene. Tune in, you'll know what I mean. Close your eyes, what's truth or lie? Hiding in the space between realities, a tangled scene. Tune in, you'll know what I mean. Hey, history homos only on the case for a good time, baby. Took a rose pill, now I'm reading these books for a long time, baby.
Three, two, one, and we're live. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This week we are picking up, Patrick and I are picking up from an episode that we did a few weeks ago on the Pequot War. And this is the big one, folks. This is King Philip's War, also known as Metacom's War. I think we're going to use nomenclature as such for this episode. It's going to be called King Philip's War, but I'm going to refer to King Philip as Metacom because that's his name.
All right. We
So
won't
the
dead
background
name
for
the
that,
dead.
before we get into any of this stuff, I just want to get the background of the nomenclature of Philip. Is he was named after Massasoit was the guy who made the initial treaty with the Plymouth colony. And he's
Mr. Thanksgiving.
Yes, Mr. Thanks. Yes, exactly. Mr. Thanksgiving. He's the first Thanksgiving was celebrated, and he lived a long time under the mutual protection agreement with the Plymouth colony. And in the 1650s and 60s, he was an old man and he died. And what happened is that there was an extended mourning period for him because he was considered a we should look at the map too while we talk about this.
An OG.
He was an old head, yeah. So there was an extended mourning period for him, which actually got the Indians in trouble.
Hmm.
because this is the area where it's actually incidentally it's the area that me and Patrick live in, the Wampanoag region of Massachusetts here. And Massasoit died, and there was an extended grieving period in which the Plymouth colony was pissed off because there was a bunch of Indians from all over the area there paying tribute to him, and it caused the Alexander, his firstborn son. So note the naming conventions here. Philip, father of Alexander and Philip, obviously named after the Alexander the Great family. His
Don't be
father, his
deceived, folks. These people
mother is
do
Philip.
have hard hair.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yes, they and so, but he got in trouble for it, and he had to answer summons to Plymouth Colony 2 times, in which he
Oh,
likely got the plague. He likely got smallpox and died after only being chief for 2 weeks, leaving Philip, who was the second born son, who is not supposed to be Metacom, who is not supposed to be the Grand Sachem, uh, in charge, and
mm,
putting in his mouth the taste of revenge forever.
mm.
That's the legend, anyway. Amongst the Indians, I should mention that's the legend.
I trust that story from them. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Um,
pretty tete-a-tete type of
See, the other problem is that
folk.
the situation in New England at the time was that all these Indian groups they did not have a sort of shared ethnic identity with one another. They largely, first of all, they had like a fluid identity in general, whereas they could easily just change tribes at any given moment,
Mhm.
change loyalties at any given moment based off of who was offering a more stable and beneficial economic situation. And by the way, I also want to refer you guys back to all of the episodes we talked about early New England, like the Changes in the Land episode about ecology, where we talk about what do you call it? The wampum,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and also of course our first of all, the antinomian crisis episode is pretty important as well, because that. So I want to say this is that the Indians, and this is, by the way, I also want to shouts out to the. Could you just Google what the name of this book, the name of the author of this book is? The title of the book is
Oh,
King
it's
Philip's
Drake,
War. Yeah, that is. I
James
don't
Drake,
remember
I
what it was.
believe.
Yeah, the title of the book is called King Philip's War: Civil War in New England,
Google
and
it.
it's by
It's by a Mr. James D. Drake from University of Massachusetts Press, Amherst.
beautiful. Great book, by the way. Can't recommend it enough.
Hmm.
It's sort of like a postmodern analysis, I would
Mm.
say. And it's to that extent, it's really enlightening because what it highlights is the fact that the way that the Indians viewed English politics was analogous to the way that they viewed their own, because of the fact that there were several New England colonies that were actually very much openly in conflict with one another over territory and over like things like piety and stuff. Like, for instance, the Massachusetts Bay people kicked out Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, incidentally, in the Antinomian crisis, to go to Rhode Island because they didn't live up to the religious standards of the Puritans. And as such, the Indians were well aware of this rift, and they viewed it as similar to the way that they viewed their own sachemships, which was sort of like local chiefdoms. And the book goes out of its way to say that it's not dissimilar. It's almost as if the way that the English organized things, that they had local chiefdoms, because all of the successful colonies and plantations that were created throughout this region usually had one wealthy benefactor, who was the most politically powerful person in town, who sort of oversaw things very much similarly to the way that a sachem would in the
Exactly.
Indian society. Yeah.
And you know what? Folks should also check out our was it the Crazy Horse and Custer episode?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
we're t Whether or not these people share exactly the same genetic lineage, or whether they fall under the same tribal umbrella, the
Yeah.
more important thing is that they are like the Puritans in a much more important and dire way, and that is that they organize under hierarchy and they
Hmm.
create a state to
Yeah.
and they they have a little bit more latitude in where they settle themselves individually. But ultimately they understand, I guess they understand the Puritans better than the Puritans understand themselves.
Yeah, they have a lot of weird shit because of their historical, the way they view history.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the Puritans have a deterministic
Hmm.
worldview based on Calvinism that like for instance when the Indians took up arms against them, they were like, well, we fucked up again, we
Hmm.
pissed off God, clearly.
Well,
That was their analysis of the situation.
yes and no. Yes, you did. But that's the thing is this isn't happening for nothing,
Yeah,
you know? And it, despite being, worlds apart, they meet in the middle. They come right back to the same place.
right.
Um,
It's funny because I mean, just in the name King Philip's War. I'm going to close this for now. We're going to come back to this map because I want,
it's a good map.
if there's going to be a YouTube clip, a short, or reel or whatever, I want like our faces to be in the thing because that's what I know. This is pathetic that I'm even discussing this on camera, but this is unfortunately what we have to do, folks. Um, it's interesting. So the English people, they projected monarchy onto the Indians, and they called him King Philip. Where actually it's more accurate to refer to their system of governance as aristocratic. Because there are families who will consistently be in charge of things. That is, and by the way, it's usually having to do with who has the most resources, I should mention. But it's somewhat democratic in the sense that if one of these aristocratic families becomes more prominent than the other, he will then become the leader of the band.
You could call him a duke, but
Something like that.
he
Yeah.
acts as a chief,
Yeah.
but he is not a king.
No.
And his name is not Philip.
No. Well, he went by it. He answered to it.
Which is sick, actually. They actively changed their names at several points in their lives.
Yeah.
Metacomet,
Yeah.
King Phil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like honestly they have cool names too. Like it's you kind of don't appreciate it because there's not a lot. The Indians in New England that remain are isolated and they live like in their own little communities or whatever. But you do, like for instance, over on your neck of the woods is the Suck on It Bridge, as I like to call it, but the Saconet Bridge. I didn't realize I knew it was an Indian name, Saconet, um, but I didn't realize it was one of the Wampanoag like sub tribes that were directly related by blood to the Wampanoag Pokanokets, who are the ones that Phillips band was called.
And now
It's just
the six Sakonnet that are left meet on that bridge and block traffic every year.
hell
They do
yeah.
it. You know what's great is when you're walking in the woods and a car pulls in. He's got like I don't know, like a Connecticut plate or something. And he's like, "I'm looking for ass in it." It's like, oh,
Yeah.
a sonnet. All right, yeah,
Yeah.
it's 30 miles that way, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of name places that are still, we're reminded of the Indians here in this neck of the woods. A couple things. I didn't realize Natick
Hmm.
was, it's now it seems stupid to think that why wouldn't Natick be an Indian name?
Natick.
But yeah, it was a town that still exists to this day that was founded by praying Indians,
Hmm.
meaning Christianized Indians.
Yep.
But we'll get into that whole thing. That's the real cause of this war,
They may
honestly.
be Christianized Indians, but they're not people.
Well, whatever. We'll get into them in a minute. But I just wanted to get to another thing is that one of the things is the Indians understood this sort of fracturing between the English colonies very distinctly because the Connecticut colony of Connecticut and the colony of Rhode Island, as well as the colony of Plymouth, did not originally receive charters as a corporation in the same sense that Massachusetts did. Massachusetts was, but there was a, in front of King Charles, they said, "Hey, we want to start this corporation. We have all this money. We want to go start a thing, and we
We have
want
a
direct
great
permission
name.
from you." Yeah, I guess. Um, uh, yeah,
Location, location.
yeah. And but the other ones, what they did was they utilized a treaty with the Indians to bring before the king. At this time, it was James. Um, and say, hey, we have this treaty that says that we're allowed to use this land. Will you co-sign this? And he did in all of these instances, by the way, because it just meant more money for him. Why wouldn't he? And but my point being is that the Indians understood that they had a vital role in legitimizing the states themselves, the colonies themselves. And so therefore they utilized this legitimacy that they granted it to continually play off the various different colonies in exchange for resources. And now the interesting thing is like we talked about this in the changes of the land episode. Is like when the English came and the Indians instantly saw an easier way to sustain themselves, i.e., being given goods in exchange for land rights and stuff. This was Pandora's box. This meant that the Indians could no longer go back to the way they were before the English ever came. And this was it's almost, I don't want to use the word inevitable because the book bucks against the idea of inevitability, but there's in a sense the fact that it was inevitable that they would lose their way of life. I will say that because of the fact that they chose to change their means of production to be so intertwined with the English production systems. And basically in order to sustain themselves other than like their actual food, like enough to literally keep themselves alive, but to clothe themselves and to get tools and weapons which they then use to hunt and sustain themselves was completely dependent upon selling plots of land to the English for them to then settle in exchange for guns, ammunition, clothing. And here's the other thing. Baubles. They were really into baubles.
Knickknacks, doodads,
Yeah.
general
doohickeys also.
bric-a-brac, doohickeys are
Yeah.
tough to come by, guy. All right?
Gizmos.
Find me a gizmo. And if you got a gadget, take my wife.
Widgets even.
Widgets. Jeez, dude.
But anyway, so
it's miserable. Just I mean, and you know what's funny too is all of this exchange, but still, what would tear these agreements apart would be the most like trifling misunderstandings and
yeah,
I thought I saw an Indian on my land that I bought from an Indian. Must have been that Indian I bought the land from. Yeah.
Well, see, you're right about that, but by and large, there was peace in the society, and it was enforced by the fact that as subjects of the colonies that they inhabited, they were subject to legalism, and if they committed a crime such as fucking with somebody's crops or herd or whatever, they would get in trouble for it. And the chief, because he understood the important relationship that they shared, would submit to them, that single guy who fucked up, because he understood that there was. This is one thing I'll say is that things never really deteriorated other than the war. There was not like war crimes. Well, it's debatable, but there wasn't like rape and like terrible. It isn't like fucking Blood Meridian. It wasn't like Blood Meridian. Actually, a couple times it was like Blood Meridian.
People aren't getting like. I mean,
eaten.
there's not dozens of bisections a day going on. You know?
Yes. But my point is that
a season maybe.
When the Indians were rebelling, they viewed themselves as being like a war. It's like a soldier uprising kind of thing. And they viewed that as separate from when they were under the protection of the colony, and so one of them just acted up, if you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they understood that if a guy acted up, he deserves to get get executed or whatever the punishment would be.
Yeah, this is the deferment of justice onto the entity of the state. You know, it's
monopoly of violence. Yeah, literally.
Yes,
yeah.
And it's a big N necessary, small N necessary. Who knows which kind of necessary it is? But yeah, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say is the so okay, enter the um so we talked about so let's go back to the map real quick and I want to just lay out where we're at um for this
Don't get us copyright struck by using
this is
somebody's
on
map.
Wikipedia. This is from Wikipedia.
You sure this isn't the
I doubt it.
the
Um
historical society?
no chance.
King Philip's estate.
No, I think he's a ghost, don't forget. But okay,
Oh
so
shit. We gotta talk about that.
the King Philip is a Wampanoag, it's more specifically a Pokanoket, and Rhode Island was dominated by the Narragansetts, and the southern or western Rhode Island and eastern Connecticut was dominated by the Mohegans, who were headed by Uncas. Who Uncas was the guy who basically spearheaded the. Okay, we got to just do a real quick rundown again on this. Wampum was a currency that was common amongst the colonies until the 1660s when the English colonists in Massachusetts started minting their own silver coins.
That's a whole other kerfuffle.
It's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other episode.
But so at But before that, in the 1640s, when the Pequot War happened, the Pequots had domination over this region, which produced the majority of the wampum itself. Uncas thought should be in charge, was a Mohegan, and he thought he should be in charge of the Pequots, and so he allied with the Massachusetts colonists and the nascent Connecticut colonists to crush the Pequots. And important thing you got to understand here is that the reason why the Massachusetts colonists were so interested in having a war was because they were having their own internal struggles over the antinomian crisis. And it was sort of like a way to externalize, it was sort of doing scapegoating the Pequot Indians because of the fact that they had internal mimetic struggles going on related to theology.
Wow. I bet there's a French guy or
Yeah, there
word
might
for
be a French
this.
guy who's written on this. Yeah.
No, that
Um,
doesn't work. That never works.
it never works.
A
No.
whole
But
a
anyway,
whole
so Uncas
nation
was
and
the big
empire
winner
wouldn't be
in
born
this.
out of this.
Uncas was the big winner on this, and he became the dominant figure in all of this region here in southern New England. And he subsumed the Pequot Indians that were put to the torch, and over 1,000 of them perished in flames. Now would serve the English for the remainder of this series of conflicts. What humiliation!
Having to learn how to pronounce doily.
I don't know
I
if they
don't know
had
if they
that
had doilies,
technology,
you're right.
that doily technology yet. It might have been a little too advanced.
Uh, yeah, either
I'm
way,
kidding.
I
They
don't
had
know.
doilies. I'm kidding.
They freaking wearing doilies on their heads, these people,
Yeah.
all the wrong.
Um, Now the Narragansetts were they also had a big hand in the wampum trade, but more importantly, the fact was is that they were more on the fence. They didn't want to help the English people specifically because they hated Uncas and they did not like the Wampanoags either. They consider themselves like we should be the ones in charge of this whole region. So they're kind of isolated between these two, and as a result, they're actually very dangerous because an isolated tribe will possibly do something rash, I guess. Um, Also, we should talk about here's the River Indians. There's literally six here: Tunxus, Pagosset, Matabasic, Quinnipiac. We're just going to refer to them as the River Indians. The way that the economy worked was that the River Indians generally, and the Nipmucks, which are the area that Worcester is today, by the way. The Nipmucks and the River Indians were middlemaning the wampum trade to out here. It's not actually on the thing here, but this is where the Mohawks lived, and the Mohawks are an Iroquoian people. These are all Algonquians. The Indians in our region, Patrick, and the New York Indians are Iroquois, And all of the Algonquians were fucking terrified of the Mohawks. And during the time where they were able to trade wampum to them in exchange for furs, this gave them a role in society. These river Indians and Nipmucks, they were able to middleman this exchange. Now the problem is in the 1660s, silver enters the scene and wampum becomes basically fucking useless. So now these guys are just eking out a survival, eking out a living basically by selling off their lands to the English in exchange for resources. And the Mohawks are simply growing in power because they're sort of like the Legion in Fallout New Vegas. They just sort of eat other tribes and make them part of their tribe essentially. And they're
Can't beat
very
'em. Join 'em.
warlike. So now that they're not being paid wampum in exchange for furs. There's a glut of furs and wampum. Actually, furs also went out of style. That's another thing I didn't even mention.
Mhm.
But my point being is that the entire economy is now ruptured essentially, and the Mohawks are now an active, like a force that the all of the Algonquians are now shit terrified of because they know that unchecked they will just eat them essentially and
Mhm.
make them part of the Mohawk Confederacy. Also worth mentioning is that during this time, all of these Algonquian Indians they cleaved even closer to the English colonists because of the fact that they knew that they could ally against the Mohawks together and fight them off should the Mohawks decide to invade. So again, we're seeing this really stratified relationship between the English and the Indians. That is, the book goes so far as to say as you kind of have to view it as one society. These are the It's also interesting that the Puritans had a pretty liberal view of the Indians. They definitely viewed them as more equal to them than they viewed Africans. That's definitely for sure. I think they said in a lot of writings they said that they're just like us. They're the sons of Adam, and they just simply need another century or two of Christian instruction, and they'll be just like us. Essentially, was
Mhm.
what their view of at the time. But they did definitely think of themselves as paternalistic towards them. The book kept using the analogy of being um, older and younger siblings
Mhm.
view like so
They,
of course sibling rivalry will exist.
naturally, and also the Indians unknowingly played into the Puritan New Jerusalem paradigm in
Yes,
that
because
very
it's
neat
come and
way.
save us.
I mean, yeah, what more could you ask for? So and the way that these people have such an austere, you know, on off, 0 or 1 view of I don't know, God's providence or in
Favor, yeah.
yeah, so it's either okay, we'll give it a century and we'll have these people in quiet in the pews in no time, or we'll kill them. It's
Yeah,
easy.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
They also, I will say this, is that when they started to proselytize the Indians, and it took a little bit, they were like, oh my God, they were premillennials, by the way, I should mention. Um, they were like, look, end times is coming. We're actually able to tame the savage and make them Christian. Like, this is a sign of the second coming of Christ, is that we're able to go to a new continent and spread the word of God. I can see that mindset, by the way, is that you're literally come to an alien land and shown people the Bible, and they're like, we kind of like this. And it's like, this is it, we're fucking doing it. We're so
I mean,
back.
yeah, I can imagine that level of excitement on a very much smaller level anytime anyone's just interested in talking about any of
True,
this
yeah.
shit. Like, really?
Never
Um,
mind
uh,
at a societal level, yeah.
yeah, so it, yeah, and unfortunately, I still think you should check out the Japanese Christian conversion crisis. Uh, that went on. That's
Oh yeah, then they killed them
similar.
all, right?
Oh my goodness, what a
The,
mess.
the Japanese like killed all the Christian converts or something because they
Everyone's
viewed them
like,
as spies or something.
we're it doesn't help when it's the Jesuits who are, doing the
Yeah,
proselytizing.
it's not a great
Yeah,
situation. Yeah.
but
Oh, it's
hey,
also worth mentioning that the Puritans had this like real impetus to proselytize their brand of Christianity to
Hmm.
the Indians because they knew as a matter of fucking fact is that French Jesuits were converting Indians in the north of New England. Yeah.
Sacre bleu. So
Yeah.
true.
Okay, so now let's talk about the Christian Indians. So yeah, that was a new thing. So here's the thing, we don't the interesting thing about it is that we modern archaeologists have excavated Christian Indian settlements, burial grounds even, and they're almost undiscernible between those of the pagan Indians and the Christian Indians. Meaning, if the Indians were genuinely Christian, they still largely practice their own like religion essentially. Like it was a hybridization of the two, if anything.
Yeah, naturally. I mean, a lot of a lot of missionary approaches to, this kind of stuff is
We were just talking
syncretism.
about Haitian voodoo Catholicism.
Yeah, yeah. It's whatever's permissible. It's
Right.
whatever's can be assimilated. It's, going to be rare that the true spirit of because the problem is Christianity often comes with a flag behind it. It's not just the book, you know,
Right.
and the collar. It's there's a culture that comes with it when it should not be the case.
And
You know,
particularly in this situation, in this like the Puritan, Calvinist sort of milieu.
exactly. Yeah. So it's it's not a surprise that it would not take, or it would have to take hold in a way that, you know it
Is
leaves
syncretic, yeah.
cracks in the hull.
Right. Now, but my point, the reason I mention that is because
Seems.
it seems that
It
it was
seems.
largely the reason that the Indians would even give, if you asked them why they converted to Christianity, they would openly probably tell you because we get resources in exchange for having done so.
Yeah, so I mean, whatever statistics any guy's gonna come up with, like, look at the conversion rates. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Daniel Gookin. Daniel
some guy,
Gookin was like, "We fucking did it, guys. We completely converted the savages." And meanwhile, they're just like big heaps, bigum heaps, fucking corn or whatever.
big heaps of sweet corn.
Yeah. Um. But
What,
okay,
what,
so that's important
what's
though.
what's that Mexican corn with all the shit on it? It's got like
Masa.
cheese.
Elote.
Elote?
Yeah.
Heapums of
It's
elote.
really good, by the way. If you ever
Uh,
had it, it's
I
so
think
good.
I have like cut off the cob, which is honestly it seems like it would be better because you get
Elote corn salad, I've seen, yeah, as well.
bring it on.
I like it on
All
the
right,
cob too, though. It's pretty good. Sorry to get off topic here, but elote is
folks.
bomb. Shouts
Yeah,
out to shouts out to Mexicans
I'd
for
sell
that
out
one.
my culture, my family, everything for the
Elote.
recipe.
Yeah. Yeah, an invitation to the cookout.
Fix this
Um
boy a plate.
okay, so
Oh, me?
okay, now put yourself in the shoes of somebody like Metacom.
Moccasins.
Yeah, put yourself in the moccasins of someone like Metacom. Although actually I don't know, at this point they might have been wearing English shoes.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
it's
Although I don't
gay.
know, because Johnny Appleseed wore moccasins, up 100 years later.
Yeah, it's a matter of, what your personal
Yeah. Also,
sense of what's sensible is.
I was gonna say, I bet like the men who like go hunting in the Indian village, they probably wore boots or something, but the women probably did wear moccasins or barefoot or whatever because
Mm,
they're just farming all day.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm just speculating. I love these guys, by the way. I like if I
You
like.
are in. Can
I
we get
love
you a
these
blood
Indian
test,
men.
dude?
No, I definitely don't get
Come
any of
on.
that.
We can eke in a 12. What do they need?
20.
12%?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna declare myself a member of the
You
Wampanoags.
can go to, I think you get college for free. So I think you get lottery tickets for free.
It's actually an insane thing that they get. I can't remember. It was like Haas or somebody in the group chat was like say he knew somebody who was an Indian or somebody, and he said that he got like 40,000 bucks a year for something like just being Indian.
But all he had to do was stay within a like 8 by 8 square foot space.
Yeah, I don't know if is it worth it.
No.
You tell me.
I mean,
Um.
give me 20 by 20
Anyway, so
internet capabilities.
the yeah, so okay, the Indian, so put yourself in the moccasins of Metacom though.
Yeah.
He is an avowed pagan. He doesn't have any interest in converting to Christianity. And suddenly he sees groups of praying Indians, they call them, Christianized Indians, moving into his region and competing for the very same resources that he. So there's a finite amount of resources that Indians writ large can get from a colony, right? Just they're not going to suddenly start producing more to accommodate two groups of Indians, okay? So now there's a group of praying Indians that move into Metacom's area, and he's looking at it going, "Oh, I'm fucked. They're always going to choose the Christian Indians over me because they're Christian. This is a fact."
They
And things
behave.
I don't think they did though.
No,
That's
no,
the thing.
honestly, yeah, that's,
Yeah, but
that's
it's
the
just
joke,
yeah,
unfortunately.
and then the other thing is that you have to understand this is also still he's in the mindset of the Indians of the time, whereas he just goes, "Oh, that's another tribe now." He doesn't view them as anything fundamentally different than the way he views the Narragansetts as rivals. But he's like, now because these guys are boys with them because they're Christians, now they're in my turf and I can't do shit about it. And another thing is this guy named John Sassamon, interesting, sneaky character. He's an Indian who was an orphan as a little boy. He's raised by English settlers. Yes, you want to say something about John
Oh, no, no,
Sassamon?
just carry on regarding John
He
Sussamon.
he's Sassamon. Yeah, he was sus. He also attended Harvard. Interestingly,
Well, hold on. Metacom attended Yale? No, Harvard.
no. That's John Sassamon. Metacom didn't attend shit.
Am I misremembering?
No, John Sassamon attended Harvard and became a ordained Puritan minister.
That is, yes.
But John Sassamon was a scumbag
Sorry.
because John Sassamon the whole time was advocating for the praying Indians. He started his own Indian settlement within Wampanoag Plymouth colony area, and meanwhile he was personally the translator for Metacom to
Oh, that's what it was. Sorry.
yeah, he was the
Yeah.
guy who actually translated and oversaw the agreements of fealty that the Wampanoags gave to Plymouth. And it's speculated, we don't know, that he was telling Philip something other than what was actually happening. Is that he entire time he was talking out of both sides of his mouth and angling for him to become the dominant figure in the Indian figure in the area by moving his group of praying Indians into the area. And this pissed them off.
Mightily,
Yeah.
righteously, in fact.
Yeah.
But thankfully, John Sussamon, rode off into the sunset and, made
Oh,
good
no,
for
no,
the
no,
error
no,
of
no,
his
no,
ways.
no,
Oh,
no,
wait,
no.
wait. No, what happened to John Sussamon?
Well, John Sassamon. Well, first of all, he did something else sus before the next thing happened, which is probably the catalyst for what happened to him. Is that
Yes.
he produced to the English a bill of sale of land from the Pokanoket band sachem Tuspaquin, who is a cousin of Metacom's and one of his closest allies. He's actually the final. I think he was the last, second. Was the second to last guy to have been captured by the English at the end of this whole thing. But Tuspaquin had a big piece of parcel of land that was essentially stolen from him by John Sass. We don't know the actual history of this because this document didn't survive. But Tuspaquin's allegations is that he never in his fucking life said, "Yeah, John Sassamon, you can have this land." But John Sassamon inhabited the land and presented documentation to the effect that he had been sold that land by Tuspaquin and inhabited the land. And this also really pissed off Metacom, Tuspaquin, Anna Washunks, and what's it called? Wedamoo is my other favorite one. I've been calling my cat Wedamoo actually.
Oh,
Wedamoo is a lady. It's actually
yeah,
Philip's
the wife.
brother Alexander's widow.
Yeah.
Was who Wedamoo is. But the reason I call my cat Wedamoo is because when he's crying for his wetties, his wet food, we call him Wedamoo because he's mooing for his wet.
For those who aren't aware, Scott recently gave his cat its own kind of wampum.
It's
You
kind of analogous,
stupid.
actually. You're
You
right.
all the whining you see from my cats, and you didn't know what that was about? It's because
I didn't realize. I opened Pandora's box in a way that I could never close. Obviously, that's the metaphor. But
I warn ye, Scott
do you have
Abrams.
two Wedamoos at your house as well?
What a moo moo. What a they're little monsters, little freaks. They knock shit off the walls.
Yeah,
It's
we
like
call
having a
them we call him a gremlin
poltergeist.
when he's begging for the wet food.
Scott, 5 p.m., 5 a.m.
We only
And you
give it
know
to him
what?
once a day.
Before I got here, it was just 5 p.m. I didn't know they didn't get anything in the morning.
You're the real fool then.
Yeah, no, yeah, no. Yeah.
You're blindsided by it. But anyway, so we got a couple Wedamoos in our house. But Wedamoo was a Philip's brother's widow. And she actually had a huge. This is the other thing you got to
The
understand. It was really
squaw
alien.
No,
Yeah,
wait,
squaw
that
sachem. They
wasn't.
called her that. Yeah.
Was that her? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, actually, Anna
No.
Washunks was the squaw sachem, but they're both squaw sachems in actuality. She was called Anna Washunks was called the squash sachem.
Shit, that sucks. Imagine.
Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
she's
if
an
you're
interesting character. We'll talk about her later, but she got to switch sides, fucking bitch. But okay, so another
typical.
thing we also have to talk about is the fact that there was a generational issue here at hand. The older Indians were content to continue on in the same way that they had been for the last 60 some odd years, 60, 70 years. Um, and the younger Indians were looking at the fact that this was a losing game and they were young men and they didn't have the status that um, people like Metacom or let's see some of the others here. Um, Ninigrit was of the Nipmucks. And that's interesting because the Nipmucks were in open rebellion against the Massachusetts colony, but the leader was like, I don't want to do this.
Mm.
Like the whole time. He wanted to be boys of the English the whole time, but the young men were like, Ninigrit, you fucking asshole, you're selling us out here. You're giving away our land continually.
Yeah, but
And it's like boomers. It's like
yeah,
boomers. They got theirs and they're like, fuck you guys.
yeah, but these guys know how to whistle and they have belt buckles.
True. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
They know how to whistle Old Lang Syne or something.
I don't know.
That
That's from the 1800s.
I did my best with whatever I could
Old Lang
say
Syne is.
without
Did you know
pausing.
Old Lang Syne is a explicitly Masonic song?
That was bugging me the other morning when I was laying in bed, like preparing for work,
Yeah.
4 hours ahead of me, still daunting. And I'm just laying there just humming Old Lang Syne because I find that melody very soothing. I don't know the words. I don't, uh, but I
I
find the
don't know
melody
either.
very nice.
Now that I
Is
mention
it
it.
still, am I still invoking some sort of Masonic,
Yeah,
like
you are.
Demigorgon?
Yes.
Shit,
Yeah.
that
The
sucks.
guy who wrote the song was a Grand Master Mason.
What if I tweak it a little bit? What if I change the key?
If you want, I'm not going to stop you, but
What if my heart's with Christ and the whole time?
I don't know. It's got a little bit too much King
I'm
David
so,
tar brush touching it, I think, or
I'm
King
sorry.
Solomon tar brush touching it, I
Listen.
think.
I'll take this to a priest. I shouldn't be troubling you with these
No, he'll tell you he'll be more
quibblings.
fucking explicit than I am about it.
Sure,
The
but
Catholic Church hates Freemasonry.
oh, yeah, yeah, ostensibly.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Listen,
Anyway,
I
so
I I hate people who break traffic laws, ostensibly.
I explicitly do. except when I'm doing it. But
That was
regardless,
my point. That was my
yeah.
joke.
Okay, so right, so back to John Sassamon.
How's he doing?
He's not doing good. I hate to tell you this. So
People are putting dirt on his name.
the younger Indians were pissed about the fact that he came into the area and fucked over a bunch of people. So they pushed him under the ice.
What's that, like a figure of speech?
Nope, they literally hit him, knocked him out cold, and put him under the ice in an attempt to make him look like he drowned. And they
Did he?
found him when spring thaw came.
Well, he did drown.
He did drown. He
Whether or
missed. Yeah,
not.
they were missing. He was missing for 3 or 4 months or whatever. They did it in the dead of winter, and no one knew where he was for that whole time. And then some
Out getting a
fishermen,
pack of cigarettes.
yeah, maybe pack of peace pipe him.
A
But
roll
he,
of
but
tobacco.
the Plymouth colonists essentially found his body in the spring, and were like, "Oh, geez, here's John Sassamon."
What's he got, a
um,
name tag on? You
No,
kidding
but
me?
he was like one of the people that they recognized because he was like the one who
Also,
spoke. He's the one who spoke English.
no shit.
Yeah.
Also, you froze. What better way to, preserve
Also,
the
I know it
evidence?
seems like history obscures it, and also like what our conceptions of what society might have been like at the time. But the fact is there was only several hundred people in these colonies, or
Oh
maybe a
yeah,
thousand at most. And
that's
so you would actually know John Sassamon being the only Indian who spoke good English.
that's why the per capita
Yeah, they lost
qualifier is so.
5% of the population, maybe.
I this was more deaths per capita than the Civil War.
Yeah,
You were
out of
more
the
likely
total population, right?
to know multiple people who died because of this
Yes.
than in any other time in American history. This would
Yeah.
have affected. So if you think of the 20 closest people to you in your life, I don't know. What's that?
The
Listen,
two would die. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Scott,
crazy,
speak a
right?
little math for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
what a horror.
it's absolutely insane. Yeah. And then by
And the impress
from the Indian perspective, it's even more.
well, yeah, but three. It's not 3/5, but what's the Scott? Do a little math for him. Come on.
I can't, I don't know,
I'm
but
not.
no, that's
You're
not
not.
my strong suit, to be honest.
What? You're not gonna put a fractional figure on the life of a Native American.
No, they just well, okay, minus 100 years of Christian servitude.
All right, all right. Don't actually. Oh my God, 5,000. Oh my goodness, five.
That's quite a
Jeepers.
lot.
Yeah,
But anyway, so
horror.
my point being is so John Sassamon's dead. Basically, there's a bunch of rats in the Indian society. By the way, they all ratted. I'm guessing on who did it. Who are three youths.
You're
Who
finding out you did it. You didn't even do it.
I think they did do it for the record.
But
The guys who got in trouble for it did do it.
the
No, the
guys who did
question
do
is
it were like,
whether
some other
the
guy did it.
question is, and I actually tend to say no. I tend to say no on this. Is that whether or not Metacom knew about killing John Sassamon, or I'm guessing what happened was they did it, came to him, told him, and he was like, "Good, fuck him."
Right.
But the issue is that the
Sort of a tone. I didn't know anything about it.
well, he didn't like John Sassamon. Really didn't like John Sassamon. So I imagine it's like finding out a guy you hate died. It's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. But he's an Indian too. Give him cut
All
him
right.
some slack here. And again, it's also just like the fact that they viewed someone who was in a slightly different group as being like antithetical to their existence is
Oh yeah, no.
is very real.
These are hard-hearted folk
Yeah.
for those who.
But the point is that so the Plymouth colony put the three youths on trial,
Oofs.
and decided
Just a
to
couple
execute them.
YNs
They
trying to
did
make
have the Indians carry out the execution because that was the custom of the time. They thought it would be like a little bit more like diplomatic if they had Indians carry out the Indian
Yeah,
executions.
it's it's like it's an understanding of like the way the tensions are being weighed,
Yeah.
and they're like they're foreseeing what might it's
Oh, right.
wise.
An important thing about that to extend on what you're saying is that the Plymouth Colony, when they did the trial, they had an entire jury of Indians. It is
Further
not
to the point.
stated, however, whether what group of Indians this came from, and it's highly theorized that it was 100% praying Christian Indians. Ergo, when the result was that it was a unanimous guilty verdict, that's pretty much indicating that it was all praying Indians. Um,
Yeah, it was a new tribe that just got incorporated, the Pawtucket Paw Sox or something. I don't know.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. But my point is that so this showed Metacom that the writing was on the wall. It's over. It's over, Johnny. Our
They're over the
tribe
wall.
is going to be in decline now,
Hmm.
and the praying Indians are on the ascent, and likely due to this fact and the fact that all of my underlings are going to view me as being dickless and unable to rule shit around here. They're probably all going to just convert to Christianity and become enriched, not enriched, they're not rich, but I mean like funded and resourced by those machinations. I'm out of a job essentially. So what happened next is a little confused. Um, so there was the next day there was a raid on Swansea, which is to this day still a place in Massachusetts you can visit. I believe there's a prison there actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. Um, but what's it called? So there was a small raid on Swansea, and but there was they didn't they shot their guns and I believe they killed cattle and they like plundered from the settlement of Swansea, and the colonists at Swansea fired their guns in response, and they struck one Indian non-fatally.
Mm.
That was the extent of the action that occurred in this exchange. The next weekend, or the next few days, there was a full lunar eclipse. Now,
Wow.
it must be said that the colonists knew that this was going to happen. They had it in an almanac that had been published in Boston in the year prior, like a farmer's almanac, the same way we have today. Um, and they understood the principle of why there were lunar eclipses, and they understood it to be something that is not necessarily a omen of any kind. But the Indians did not know this. And the Indians viewed a lunar eclipse as being a portent of war and or also a portent of a large loss of death. It also interestingly works both ways because, for instance, there's a historical record of a time that a group of Indians had died in a plague, probably smallpox. We don't know, but we're assuming. And they were like very upset about it or whatever. And it sort of subsided. And then after it subsided, there was a lunar eclipse. And the Indians said to the colonists that were talking to them that, oh, we're glad that the moon came because that meant that that was divinely sent to us. And it's probably over now because we saw the moon. So basically, what I'm trying to get at here is that the moon lunar eclipse is an omen on either side of a great harrowing death, essentially. And a lot of tribes in the area, particularly the ones who are pissed off about this whole John Sassonet um, situation, were like, "It's go time," and um, it allowed the widespread mobilization of um, of Indians across the region. Let's take another look at this map here, and we'll talk again about the alliances kind of situation. So, as we said before, I also should mention here that the Massachusetts, by the way, are were kind of in decline. There's a whole, we got to do an episode of the Beaver War at some point. That's another thing. It's an Indian versus Indian war where the Massachusetts got completely fucked by Northern Indians. I can't remember what type, but also the Mohawks. And this kind of actually sort of set the ball rolling of all these things, like the power vacuum that ended up with all this stuff happening. But that's another conversation. My point is that the majority of the Massachusetts Indians were Englishized, and or they were going to fight on the side of the English, and or they were non-combatants in the war. The Wampanoags were obviously the main combatants of the wars, Metacom's group. The Narragansetts, the Pequots and the Mohegans, or I should say the Mohegans and the Pequots under them, were loyal to the English, most of anybody, because Uncas had gained so much by allying with the English throughout the last 50 years. I mentioned before that the River Indians and the Nipmucks had been extremely closely allied with the English, but in the last 20 years, given the fact that wampum had lost significance, meant that they were kind of left in the lurch, and ergo were susceptible to Philip's call for revolution, essentially. So what happened was King Philip, and aka Metacom, sent his troops all around this area and sort of built up his forces going all the way through here and activated a bunch of these other tribes. And throughout, this was, by the way, this was in the Sassanet verdict, and thing happened in June of 1675, and that's also when the lunar eclipse happened. And then over August, September, and November, absolute chaos. Metacom's rebellion was in full swing, essentially, and they spread out through all this area. Notably also is that these areas, by the way, John Pinchon was the guy who founded the town of Springfield over here. He called the Indians in his area his Indians. He was so sure of these guys being his boys, that he, yeah.
Oh, which I mean speaks to, I don't know, just how little you understand. But maybe if we have 20, benefit of hindsight, that whole
True.
thing. But I don't know. People have. Do you think at this point, I suppose 100 years since first English contact, and what, like the 1580s or whatever,
Yeah.
almost, that one who people should understand at this point that the loyalties and the relationships that one builds with these tribes cannot be counted on, unfortunately.
This was kind of a wake-up call for both, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Worth mentioning here is that so this is an important aspect. So the Narragansetts went to Roger Williams during this time and said, we don't really want to fight in this war. We don't want to. Our younger people do want to fight in it. We are trying our fucking best to not get involved in this war. Primarily reason we want to stay out of it is we don't like the Wampanoags. They're our rivals. We also don't want to ally with the English because we, even worse, hate Uncas. And Uncas is beating the war drum against the rebellion. So they're put in this really fucked up situation as they're caught between a rock and a hard place now. Ultimately, they aided. Oh, this is the other thing that they didn't get. Is that and right before, on the eve of the war too, Metacom went to Roger Williams and said, "Why is Massachusetts and Connecticut allying with Plymouth? I'm fighting Plymouth. That was my initial aim, was to fight Plymouth because they fucked me over. Why is Massachusetts and Connecticut jumping in on it?" And Roger Williams, who I should mention was banished from the Massachusetts colony for his religious differences, said to Metacom, Um, dude, you don't understand. We're all English. And we all have the same king. And while we have our differences for money and power and religious reasons, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all the same guys. And
White's
it's,
all right.
yeah, we have a sort of racial solidarity. And this
Get with the
absolutely
program.
gobsmacked the
Yeah.
Indians. They had no clue about this. They were like, wait a minute, you guys have racial solidarity? What the fuck? We hate each other when we do things that piss each other off. And then it's all at war.
The uh, do you think what what with the whole you know Roger Williams leaving to start his own colony, what I don't know. It's interesting that yeah, he understands it. He
He
may not.
grokked it. He grokked what was
He
going on, though.
understands
Yeah.
it, but I'm sure he sees the tragedy of it. You know, the fact that the friend the friend of my friend is my enemy
Yeah.
now
It's worth
situation.
mentioning he stayed out of the conflict even
Exactly.
when Rhode Island was directly attacked by rebel forces.
Hmm.
Which was, by the way, an act of desperation on their part because they were running out of food at that point. It has nothing to do with that they viewed them as a legitimate military target. But again, this became it spun out of control immediately because of the fact that it was largely spurred on by an eclipse.
Oh, what a horror.
I know.
True. I don't know. Does that lend this and this because like you mentioned before, this is the turning point in uh, uh Anglo-Indian relations
Yeah.
on this continent. This set this set the tone for the next couple hundred years to come, and
Yeah. It had it, the book I thought was cool, interesting because it kept utilizing the metaphor of a covalent bond in physics, like
yeah.
between several atoms creating a substance or whatever.
Hmm.
Because it what it was is the idea of a covalent bond is two or more different atoms combine and create a new substance, and that was different than both of the atom substances that were comprised of it initially.
Hmm.
And also in a covalent bond, when you take one away, it then becomes something other than it was when they were together and what they were before. And so that's why the book goes out of its way to say this was a civil war. And also very much was it was adjudicated like a civil war by the English in the sense that they viewed themselves as being justified in just killing all the Indians outright because they had sworn loyalty to them, considering themselves. So they were, in their minds, equally subjects to the colony as themselves. So
Hmm.
they were an open rebellion, ergo treason. And we all know what the treatment for treason is. It's death.
Drawn, quartered,
Correct.
pissed on.
But they decided that as a utilitarian tactic that they would also in certain situations treat them as military combatants, i.e. they'll take them as prisoners. So they were actually viewing themselves they're patting themselves on the back essentially for being like, we have the legal justification to kill these people, but we're going to treat them as military prisoners so that we can fix this kind of thing.
Sell them. Oh, fix this. Yes. Not sell them to
I mean, they
yeah.
were getting killed. I kind of see you know what I mean? It's honestly honorable that they even tried to keep things civil between the two groups
Any
in
attempt at
given
all,
the situation. Yeah.
but
It's also worth mentioning here is
too
that
far
this
gone.
was in the wake of probably the worst war of pre 20th century, the 30 Years' War. Many of the guys who were in the Massachusetts or colonial militaries were veterans of the 30 Years' War on the part of the English. And this, I can't. We have to do an episode on this, by the way, but I can't even express to you how bad this was. This was like rape was a tactic in this war.
It was on the schedule.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. So it's worth mentioning too is that that was in the 1630s and 40s, or actually the whole beginning of the 1600s. But my point is that by the 1650s was the English Civil War, which is famously brutal, and it has a lot of the same problems as this does because the people in this English Civil War also viewed this as treason. They considered it a rebellion, so they felt justified to cut these guys' heads off and put them on pikes when they caught them. However, the English Civil War guys patted themselves on the back for not sinking to the depths of the 30 Years' War. And further, the King Philip's War English combatants patted themselves on the back for not sinking to the levels of the English Civil War. So
And
it is a
everyone's patting,
progressive
yeah, and everyone's patting themselves on the back for not how you
raping.
say devolving to the tactics of the natives, of the Indians, which
The,
are
the Indians were okay though. They when they took English captives, they never did bad stuff to them.
well, yeah, but the English like they took up with the Mohawks who like to eat people. Did they not?
Kind of a little bit.
Yeah, all
I
right.
think they sort of just let them have each other kind of thing.
Well, they're having a party over there. We're not gonna go.
We'll get to that in a minute. I want to cover a couple more things
Yeah,
before we
yeah,
get to
yeah.
the turning point of the war.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So okay, worth mentioning that the main tactic. So first of all, it must be said the Indians were better fighters, period, than the English because they hunted all day, all the livelong day, because they had that sort of subsistence pattern. And the English, they had more resources, of course, but they didn't really practice that stuff. And they also, the way that they trained, they had very active militias. We talked about this in the Albion Seed episode. But what they did was they trained in the way that the English military back in England slash in the Continental Wars did, which was in volleys, as opposed to the Indians had a sort of guerrilla tactics in which they had singular Indians who were good at shooting sneak up through the woods and flank large groups of the English who were all clumped together, ready to do a volley, and would pick them off. And this was a pretty effective way to fight a larger force than you. Further, their main weapon was fire. Essentially, what they did was because of the fact that they had a sort of semi-sedentary but mostly nomadic lifestyle, they could pick up and leave whenever they wanted, essentially. And the English had permanent settlements that were made of wood that were easily burnable. And so, particularly that area in the River Indian stuff over by Springfield and the like, and in Western Connecticut, the Indians just came to town in the middle of the night, started burning shit. And generally, what would happen was all the English colonists would hide in the town hall and or like a garrison building that they had.
Then they'd burn
Um,
that.
no, they wouldn't. They couldn't because it was made of stone usually.
Right.
But
They
basically,
tried.
they would. They. This is the thing. They didn't actually want to exterminate the English. They wanted to make them give up and concede things to them. So what they did was they just came to town, fucked their barns up, killed their cattle, stole their crops, which then they supplied themselves with, by the way, which sustained their war effort. And then they would move on to the next, and then they would take captives too, which at the first part, they were all holding all of them to permanently hold to be like, this is our bargaining chip. We're going to hold them, keep them fed, keep them alive, not kill them, not rape them. Actually, they put them to work. Interestingly, all the women they got captured, they said they set them in a wigwam and said, "Knit, we want English clothes." And then
Use these
yeah,
corn husks.
no, they had natural
Yeah,
fibers and stuff. It was
they'd find them.
they stole it from the colonies
Yeah.
too. But my point is that but as the war went on and they started losing, they ended up being like, we're starving. Let's just give back some of these captives in exchange for food. And that's after the turning point. We'll get to that in a sec. But what else I want to say is yeah, the other thing is like I'm not being granular with these stories. There's so many daring on both sides of the conflict. There's so many daring anecdotal stories about these each battle. It's like dozens and dozens of towns and battles that occurred all over New England, and each one is heroic on both sides. And I'll just bring up briefly in Hadley, Massachusetts, which is over by Springfield, uh, the Great Champion. Allegedly, one of the guys who had signed the death warrant of King Charles during the English Civil War. He had been hiding out in Massachusetts, out in Hadley. Allegedly, this is a legend. We don't know if this is true or not, but it's a very well remembered folk legend, which led to the Nathaniel Hawthorne story of the same name, Great Champion. Um,
Check out the
and
episode.
Yeah, check out our episode on the Substack. By the way, we did a reading and analysis of it. But the Great Champion. So he allegedly, being a veteran of the English Civil War, when the Indians attacked Hadley, he'd been in hiding in a cave supposedly, and no one knew he was even in town. And when the Indians came, he led the counter battle and got the Indians to leave after only having burnt a few things and not taken too much. Essentially, that's the legend. But that's what I'm saying. There's like heroic stories in every one of these little mini theaters, and there's no way we could get to all of them, unfortunately.
And now all the heroism you'll find in Hadley is like a bunch of boomers, 60 septuagenarians, and
Yeah,
with
that's probably true. Great
signs.
champions, if you will.
Dude, the amount of protests that you will find going on, protests, quote unquote. Not the This is the thing. Is next time you see on the news like the protests are raging out of control, they probably are. But just make sure the ones in your town aren't literally just like
Boomers, yeah.
yeah, like the NPR like septuagenarian T-ball game, just going
Yeah.
on. They're outside the bank, maybe. They got
Yeah, that'll
signs.
show them. That'll show them.
Do you think the
Um,
great champion, do you think if there was a great champion, do you think he would have, I don't know, gotten a subprime mortgage on his house and then lost it?
no, I think he absolutely wouldn't. He was probably one of the most hardcore Puritans that ever existed, if I'm gonna guess.
You're saying he wouldn't have pointed at the front door and told his son to go die in Vietnam? Or, well, actually, that's the wrong generation, same mindset,
Yeah.
same
No, I don't think
ethos.
he. I think the Great Champion and that kind of really committed Puritan. It's not. I don't think there's an analogy we can make to those kind of people. Those people just don't exist these days.
It's a whole other. They're wearing
World,
totally
whole nother
yeah.
world. Yeah, Calvinism died a hard death.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But it's truly a whole other set of a whole new lens to look at the world through. If you
yeah,
actively, you know, imbue your worldview with this true sense of like, I don't know, terror at the thought that,
determinism. Yeah.
yeah, that God's,
To that
yeah,
end, so in this, I was talking about the Great Swamp Fight first. The Great Swamp Fight happened in December of 1675, and basically what it had been happening is that the Narragansetts, the younger generation of the Narragansetts, had been aiding the rebels, and they when the English colonies said to them like, "Hey guys, what's going on here?" They basically told them to shut the fuck up and fuck off. And so instead of allowing this to boil over, the United Colonies, as they were called, just decided to attack them preemptively. And the Great
just
Swamp
to be
Fight,
safe.
it happens
Hey,
in
we
what
were
is
thinking of you.
today South Kingston, Rhode Island, which is very south. It's right on the coast. There is to this day there's a monument. I kind of wanted to go there in preparation for this episode, but I just couldn't justify driving an hour and 10 minutes to the southernmost tip of Rhode Island just to go like wander around the woods for an hour and a half.
I'd have drove.
Well, you
I could
should have
shit
taken the initiative.
shit. Well,
I
that's
did
so
go to
true.
somewhere. We'll talk about it when the part of the history comes, but I did actually go somewhere for this episode, and I will be posting pics of it to the Substack post. But anyway, so the Great Swamp Fight took place in what is now land, but at the time was a grouping of islands in a swamp. And they've in subsequent years, agricultural projects have extended all that. Like they did backfilling to make all that like flat land for them to grow crops on, essentially. But at the time, they had to walk across ice. The I think it was like 450 United Colonies troops, I believe, came, and 150 of them were Pequot and Mohegan Indians, led
Mm.
not by Uncas, because Uncas was like literally 75 years old, but I'm guessing like Uncas's son or whatever was the guy who was in charge of the of that contingency. And yeah, they burned them all to death.
Hell of a way to go, burning to
Yeah.
death in a swamp. Yeah.
Yeah. Worth noting is that they captured a forge. The Indians at this time had learned to make their own
Mhm.
shot and fix their pieces to repair their muskets. So they were like a legitimate war machine, and this was a huge blow to their production. And by the way, that this proved also likely that the Narragansetts were in direct league with the rebellion at this time.
Mhm.
So they weren't. I know it sounds fucked up now to go like, yeah, they preemptively struck the Narragansetts even though they weren't in an open war with them. Eh.
They're about to be
I think it's worth saying though that it was messed up that they just burnt their women and children.
enemy combatants.
That's what they call them. But at any rate, also I should talk about this other guy named Captain Turner, who was a he was Jamaican privateer, if I'm not mistaken. And
Bumbuckled.
yeah, he was saying, "Hear me now, Indians." No, he was a pirate, is what I'm trying to say. He's literally, quite literally, a pirate, and he had a bunch of pirates with him, and
Mhm.
a bunch of townsmen, essentially, who probably were illiterate and hated
Townies.
Indians for legitimately racist reasons. I should point out here is that throughout this whole time, the governments of the colonies are begging the regular colonists to not just kill every Indian because numerically speaking, more Indians were on the side of the English than not.
Mhm. And they
And
offer quite the, it's quite the workforce.
yeah, they were the
Off,
real fighters during this war.
yeah. It's an,
Um, so Turner attacked a place called Pesquiamscot, which still exists to this day. And he also burned a bunch. This was like the time where it was like Blood Meridian. He showed up super early in the morning. And by the way, Indians like to sleep in. They're on
Really?
CPT. They're on CPT. Yeah, that's the other thing, by the way. The reason why they hated the Mohawks so much is because the Mohawks did something called morning wars, which means they got up,
Dickheads.
got
They
up
got
early.
up early.
Yeah, that's cheating.
Guys, I haven't even had my first cup of,
Wigwam.
yeah,
What did they drink? Yeah, I guess water probably. I guess they probably like
pow
to booze it up a bit too.
Powerade.
Yeah, they like to booze it up, I think. Anyway, though,
Yeah.
I'm getting off topic here. My
Uh,
point is though, so this Turner guy, he and this is in the spring. I am actually jumping ahead a little bit, but this is worth mentioning in conjunction with the Great Swamp Fight because he attacked Puskyomscot and they were indeed rebels there, but the fact is that most of the fighting men were off on a hunting trip and they weren't there to defend. and Turner's forces sort of just burnt everyone to death and captured another forge. Now, historians believe that this forge was kind of the linchpin in the Indian war machine, because after this point they lost essentially forever. I also now have to jump back a tick here, back to January of 1676. Is At this point, let's go to the map again, real quick.
There were a few
So
forges. They had three, I think.
three or
Total.
four, yeah. I think there was probably one that they never found or didn't find until after the war was over and hostilities had ceased. But
They lost it.
so, as I said before, it's Philip started the thing here. He activated the Nipmucks and the River Indians, and this was open rebellion from June 1675 and until January of 1676, when Philip and company were here over by the Hudson River, which, as I mentioned before, was the home of the Mohawk Indians. When he arrived at the Mohawk Indians, he did so with feather hat in hand, saying, "Guys, listen, I know we haven't had the best relations in the past, but I'm doing pretty good at fucking these English guys up right now. And if you simply join us, we can dominate this entire region forever." Patrick, what do you think that the Mohawks said to him in response?
Yeah, sure, why not?
No, instead, what they said was, "Fuck you, faggot. We're going to kill you and take all your shit."
Oh, that's different. That's
Yeah.
that's probably what they said, you know, behind their backs, when they
No,
turn around.
what they said in front of them
Right,
was,
right to his face.
"Woo!" and just hack them to pieces with tomahawks, I'm guessing.
They had a game
Um,
plan before that. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah,
matter what
so
he was gonna
this
say.
was the turning point. And by the way, I should mention here is that for both the Indians and the English, they were like, "Oh, this is the spirits," and for the English, God saying, "Your time is over," essentially, to this rebellion. And they
Quite
viewed it very much as
providential.
an omen of what was cosmically happening to them, essentially. And they had to retreat with their tail between their legs back into Wampanoag territory with basically no hope, because now that the winter was over and the Narragansetts had essentially been what do you call it, eliminated, not eliminated because they existed, but they've neutralized, that's the word I was looking for. And yeah, there's very little uh um will to, here's the thing you got to understand: there wasn't much will to fight in the first place. It
Hmm.
was a eclipse that got the ball rolling here, and then it gained steam because they were having such early successes. Like, it seemed like, "Oh, this is great, we're kicking ass right now, the English are shaking in their boots." There was even a talk of them abandoning all far settlements and retreating back within the sphere of Boston and building a literal wall to keep the Indians out, essentially. Now, they didn't do this because the people who had farms in places like Concord, and places.
Ipswich. Uh,
No, I actually don't think so. Ipswich was probably fucked, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, knowing where it is. But my point being is that they were like, "No, screw you guys. We want to stay on our turf, and we're not going to give up our farms because you guys are scared of Indians. Screw that." Um, but the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that uh, it was definitely not for the English. They were like, "We are in an existential crisis. There's a very good chance we lose this war," and the fact that the Mohawks told the rebels to kick rocks and fought them meant that um, it was over, essentially, because the Indians weren't that committed in the first place.
mhm.
Um, Further, given the sort of porous concept of what an Indian is, A lot of them switched sides, unbeknownst to the English. They just simply said, "Yeah, we were always praying Indians," or "We were always part of this Massachusetts band," or whatever. And as time went on, less and less people were participating um, in the conflict at all, until the point where it actually boiled down to just the Wampanoags at the end. Also, we have to talk about the fact that the praying Indians suffered pretty badly at the beginning of this conflict because of the like instant racial backlash against Indians in general on the behalf of the English. They made the Indians go to Deer Island in Boston Harbor, which, by the way, worth mentioning, is now a detox.
Oh, jeez.
Wait, is it actually, or is it? Oh no, it is a detox. It's also a place where there's a landfill.
Yeah, so yeah, it served the same purpose for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
A
literally,
place you
yeah.
send things to die.
Yeah, and they did die. They had to eat. There was like 1,000 Indians interned there. Now, all by the way, these were all guys who were avowed pro English colony guys, and they got sent here just because they were Indians, and they had to survive the entire winter on oysters, essentially. Like they almost all died because they had very little to eat and could only fish and like dig up, like what do you call those things? Quahogs off in the sand.
Yeah, no, you cannot shuck oysters fast enough to
No, you can't to
feed that
feed a
many
thousand
people.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the spring, after things started to turn, though, those Indians were called upon by the English, of course, to
Oh, gee,
fight in the
thanks.
war. They ended up, it worked out for them though, because those guys were ended up getting all the spoils essentially. And by the way, they also, at this point, when the war tides started turning, they started paying the Indians with Indian slaves.
I'm listening.
I think that's what they said, basically. The praying Indians were like,
We
"Oh, you're
thought you
saying we
forgot
can
about
own
us.
other Indians? Seems to be an equitable solution for us, everybody."
Everybody. All right, we're in.
Um,
Someone
yeah.
else can shuck these oysters.
So this guy named Benjamin Church was a member of the Plymouth colony, and he was the most innovative utilizer of Indian forces, and he essentially won the war. He had a troop of like 100 English guys with guns that constituted the core of the force. And then he had up to like 350 Indian warriors that accompanied him on his mopping up efforts, essentially, over the next 3 months. Um, and yeah, he sort of just went all around the south coast or south shore of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and sort of just captured Indians. This is the other thing. They decided, in order to expedite their victory, that they were offering the rank and file Indian warriors clemency in the form of being spared their lives, because remember they had this sort of justification in their minds that since they were open traitors, that they had the legal right to kill them. So in what they thought was like a very humane solution was, oh, we'll just enslave you and or make you indentured servants essentially. And a lot, I should mention this too, is that a lot of these Indians ended up getting sold into slavery and sent to plantations all in the Caribbean. Particularly, I want to say Barbados. There's a local legend in Barbados is that the they're the descendants of a 50-50 admixture of a Native American from New England and African slave. And they do, I would say this is, in Barbados, they are kind of lighter skinned than, like, say, Jamaicans. So there's possibly some truth to this.
Hmm.
But it's unsubstantiated. They didn't take records of how many Indians went there and how they intermixed with the existing African slave population. But I don't know. I kind of believe it, just as a sort of folklore thing, you know.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Barbados, Bermuda, where else?
They had the time there was a place called Providence Island, which was a Puritan colony that failed in 1665, um, partially because they refused to have non-communally owned land.
and yeah, and I'm sure that went under, quietly and without any
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it happened. I know that they had something to do with like I believe the island Nevis, the island that Alexander Hamilton came from, which also was Jews, by the way. A bunch of the people who lived there were all people who had left Providence Island colony. They were like, "Well, we're not going back to England. We're going to stay somewhere down here in a colony that survived." So I know a number of the people who were in Nevis were ex Providence Island people, but that's a whole other conversation. What are we talking about this shit for?
bring it back to the mainland where
Yeah,
um, um, what's his name? Metacom has to answer for his sins.
true. So okay, there he had been essentially hanging out in this place called Mount Hope, which in the Indian tongue is Montop. You can still visit this place today, and it's very much the exact spot in which the Indians had their main village, or no, sorry, their war village. Montop was their war village, and Siam, I believe, is it's such an interestingly specific place. Is that Swansea is the place that the first shots were fired in this conflict. You could see the place where Siam was from at the tallest spot of Swansea.
No kidding.
You can look down at where the Indians lived in their what they called their peacetime village, which was where they cultivated crops generally, and also was a fishing village. And then when they're at war, they moved to Mount Hope, and that's where they were hiding out when this all
They,
happened.
they hit the mattresses, as they say.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
They hit the smallpox blankets. Well, yeah. So Benjamin Church and his Indian bands attacked in August, I believe, of 1676. Attacked down Mount Hope, and during the skirmish, one of the Indian fighters on the side of the English killed Philip in open battle, and they excavated his body from the swamp that it was taking place in, and they almost ritualistically executed him via decapitation and quartering, having been the leader of the rebellion. And again, Indians did this. Praying
Uh,
Indians, if I'm not mistaken.
it was a praying Indian who took the fatal shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
So at this left
bad
two
luck.
groups of Indians still active, Tuspequin and Anawan. They continued the rebellion after Philip had died. I believe um what's it called? So I'll just jump ahead now. Is that in August of 1676, Benjamin Church's forces cornered Anawan's troops at a place in Rehoboth, Massachusetts, at a place now called Anawan Rock. I was there yesterday. I climbed up to the top of the rock. I definitely understand why they picked this place because you could see. Of course, it now is in a second growth forest, so you can't see everywhere. But at the time, it would have been just a rock in the middle of fields. So I can definitely see why they chose this as being a place for them to camp out. It's on the edge of a swamp, so that if enemy troops came, they could escape into the swamp. It's worth mentioning here is that the English almost never went into swamps. They refused to do it. So that's why they got the Indian fighters, by the way, so they could pursue their dudes into the swamp when they ran.
There's puckwudgies in there.
Yeah.
Not
No,
going
I
in
think it was
there.
I think it has everything to do with clothing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, they're not uh how you
Equipped
say.
for that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
They're not clothes for
They're
such
not outfitted
conditions.
for such what's the word? Theaters of combat. Um,
These people are like literally dressed to fight in a church pew.
yeah, they wore like
That's it.
knickers. They wore knickers and like square-toed shoes and like a collar and a tie.
Yeah, it's great.
It's insane actually that they were doing this. But they had those cool hats though. I do like those hats.
Oh shit. Just put on your Sunday best and go fight
Kill
for your
Indians,
life.
burn Indians
Yeah.
to death.
Just imagine like black church ladies doing it with their funny hats.
Hmm.
That's the
Sir, I'm on break right now.
break's over, bitch. There is
Anyway,
hell.
so we're mentioning those. So Benjamin Church approached Anawan and said, "I know that we've been giving mercy to Indian fighters, who surrender. Um, I'm going to tell you right now that the soldiers here in camp with you are going to be spared and probably given into indentured servitude, but they're going to die. They're going to not going to die. I can't promise you that you are not going to die because you are a sachem and you were one of the closest allies of Philip throughout the conflict. But I'm personally going to bring you to Plymouth and I'm going to say I think he should live because he didn't fight me." So he faithfully he did the same thing for Tuspequin too, by the way, and the same result. Um, he brought him to Plymouth, and they spared the lives of the regular rank and file, and they said, "Sorry, Anawan's getting his head cut off," and they cut
Sorry,
his head off.
anyone.
Now, by the way, I just want you to mention, I'm going to post pictures of Anawan's rock, uh, in the Substack post, but again, it's just a really interesting to be in the spot, where these historical events transpired is like really feels really interesting. Now, I will, for full disclosure, when you get there, you instantaneously recognize this as a makeout spot. There's like beer bottles, and I'm not sure, but I thought I might have saw pantyhose actually.
Pantyhose.
Yeah,
Who's
like
bringing their secretary to
I know, right?
Montauk?
Uh, but yeah, it was clearly a place that teenagers came to drink. And I climbed all the way to the top. It's quite tall. And by the way, just in terms of geologically speaking, a really interesting feature because it's about 36-foot tall boulder,
Mm.
one big rock, that was clearly deposited there by glaciers literally hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, just another reminder of like the layers of history that New England has, is that even in the time that the Indians, this was considered Indian land, and this was considered a thing that Indians used for the purpose that they were at, like as a campsite slash forward military position. And they were simply living in the remnants of another era, Hyperborean era, in which glaciers covered the earth in this region, which is just I just love New England, man. I just love it here so much. I love thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, the natives that were here, I mean, here for 10,000 plus years or so.
They were
They walked,
newcomers, though, in the scheme of things.
yeah. Um, yeah, who knows how many generations, how many
Yeah,
moons had passed of them, convening at that spot where, there's no longer really a number. It's beyond. After a certain number of generations, it falls into myth.
yeah.
Yeah.
To that end, thank you for segueing perfectly. In the Indian cosmology, if you die in battle, they don't have a concept like the European concept of a glorious death in battle. They believe you die in battle, they'd rather be executed, if you believe this or not. They'd rather be executed because they consider that to be like a grounded death, but they consider a battle death as being a reason for your spirit to haunt the lands, essentially.
Hmm.
So to this day, in the wake of this, Indians in the region still believe that King Philip's ghost haunts the area. And Anawan's, indeed, where I was yesterday, they believe Anawan's ghost haunts that rock.
Did you feel his presence when
I
you're on
did
top of the
not.
rock?
I'll be honest. The most germane presence I was feeling was teenagers.
Yeah,
Generations of teenagers, for the record. I gotta imagine that, like, literally as far back as 1950, guys were bringing their girlfriends there to make out.
yeah. No, it's that is a weird thing is that all of these out of the way historic spots end up just becoming places for, you know,
Cruising gay guys, or
cruising gay guys,
it's
like
wholesome that it's teenagers having sex, like, and it's not
all
like
right.
some real gross stuff
Yeah,
happening there.
better that it's or even better, it's me. I'm chain smoking cigars on the trail and I'm
It wasn't much
leaving.
of a trail. It's like literally like 100 paces from the side of the road, honestly.
Oh, that
But I
sucks.
spent a while walking around there because you can, like, you have to sort of traipse up the rock, and, like,
Mm,
there's a clearly defined footpath of people who have gone. Like, you can see where people have generationally gone up the thing, but it's very overgrown. I don't think a lot of people visit it
mm.
because, like, the path that cut through around the rock that leads you to the back, which allows you to sort of clamber up it, it had, like, first of all, tall grass everywhere. I was, like, super worried about getting bit by ticks, but also, like the branches were, like, literally just blocking. You could see where the path was, but branches were just, like, crisscrossing in front of the path. So it's probably under visited these days, to be honest.
Yeah, after the singularity, this is just going to be a rock like any other.
Given the geological interest, it's not just a rock like any other.
Oh, I suppose that too, but yeah, who knows?
Anyway, though,
It's a shame
so
that should, you know, these historical places ought to be. I suppose the fact that they fall into, you know, the dusty corners of our memories is appropriate, but like anything else, like all of history, besides even the Sphinx, but
well,
even
here's a
though,
call to action then. Go visit stuff like this if you're in New England.
yes,
I do. I literally did.
clear
I
the
did it.
trail, move sticks.
Yeah. Well, just I think walking through me, like literally walking through, probably did something to clear the trail a little bit.
You scared off the ghost of
And
Metacom.
on. Yeah.
Anawan. No, Anawan. Yeah, yeah.
Um.
You're like the
Yeah. So.
you're like Shaggy in the Mystery Gang or whatever the
Yeah. I
hell.
guess so. What's I gonna say though is okay. So I was gonna talk about a Awashunks. Awashunks was the lady sachem. The squaw sachem was a leader who had supported Metacom in the beginning of the war. But I'm only bringing this up to sort of show you what the pattern of the war was. Is that Benjamin Church was able to actually go and meet with her halfway through, after the war is sort of was being lost, and said, "Guys, I really don't want to fight with you. Could you please, like, ally with us now? We have a relationship that pre-existed this conflict. Can you please, like, just fight Philip for us?" And indeed, her tribe joined his force. The strongest fighting men of her tribe joined his forces, and and that's what I'm saying. So this is the utilitarian tack that the English forces decided to take near the end of the war, because they were just so ready to be done, essentially. Um, so yeah, so thus in August of 1676, the King Philip's War was over, and forever the face of New England would be changed in the ways I'm about to list to you now. So let's talk about the Indians first, what happened to them, and then we'll talk about what happened to the English colonists. Because, and to return to the covalent bond metaphor, as these atoms are removed from the covalent bond, it produces an entirely new set of substances. The Indians were now forced into much closer intercourse with one another, and they no longer had, because of their extremely diminished numbers, no longer could continue on in the same way that they had, where they had like these rival groups or whatever, and they sort of had to create it had to act out what is known as in anthropology ethnogenesis, and they created an entirely new Indian identity writ large. Now, specifically, the Pequots and the Mohegans are a good example of this, because by the way, this is another recommendation if you're in New England. Check out the Pequot Indian Museum at Foxwoods. And it's really impressive. They have a full scale replica of what a real Indian tribal village would be like. It's literally 1-to-1 scale.
Wow.
There's they built it like to the size it would really be too, like with all the features that it would be, and it's really impressive. And you'll notice in the sort of literature that they have here is this sort of idea that they had a way of life, and the English came and they fought with them and they fucked it all up, and that's led to where they are today. Now, if you've been listening to the episode, you'll note that the Pequots fought on the side of the English. And they simply revised history so that in order to maintain the familial and cultural bonds with these new groupings of Indians together, now mashed together by necessity, they adopted this fictional framework in which all Indians and all English people were at odds at all times, despite the fact that, as we know, numerically speaking, actually the Indians fought more on the side of the English. However, I'm not going to begrudge them this, despite the fact that I would love to have a conversation with one of these guys too, by the way, because I wonder how much they're bought into it.
Probably it depends, I suppose, on their level of education on
Historical,
the,
yeah, historical,
if
yeah,
a lot
knowledge,
of it's like anecdotal or but
legendary, yeah,
yeah, exactly. But it's easy to see 2020 hindsight,
yeah.
from our year of our Lord 20 and 26. No matter what shade you are at this point, it's pretty apparent to see that no one here is behaving in good faith.
No.
Uh, and it just shook out in favor of the guys with the funny hats, as opposed to,
Mentioning to that end, actually, let's talk about the English sort of post hoc rationalization of the war. The most famous account of the war was from Increase Mather, actually, and not Cotton Mather, Increase Mather. His older brother, I believe, is Increase Mather. But he essentially wrote a dialectically opposed history to the current day Indian framing. So what I'm trying to say here is, in post hoc rationalization, the colonists adopted this worldview that it was Indians versus English. And it's a good way for them to sort of look back and go, this was an inevitable conflict. Everything we might have done that was bad was justified because it was a fight for an all a war of all against all, and there was no working our way out of it, essentially. So in a way, both groups ended up sort of adopting this race war framing, even though it, as we now know, having read this book and actually just looking at any contemporary sort of record keeping, is that it's much more complicated than that,
hmm
as anything is.
uh, I didn't want to jump ahead to, I do believe there was a short vignette about someone of the Mather name ripping a jawbone from someone's decapitated head.
don't remember that.
I'm checking my math right now.
I think that is a story. I don't know that it was in this book though. I've heard that before that they took like sort of occult, artifacts from the Indians or something. I know the Mathers are into occult stuff too, so
Uh, yeah, I do think it. Yeah, no, it wasn't a lecture that I was listening to, but I do, yeah, believe Cotton Mather. Uh,
yeah, cotton. That
detached.
sounds like Cotton Mather, not Increase Mather to me.
Yeah, yeah, Cotton Mather detached Metacomet's jawbone from his decapitated head to further the point, I guess.
Okay, weird.
Cool, dude.
Jawbones have like occult symbolism, occult significance, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, I would think so. And
I'm reminded of the. Did you ever read the Gunslinger?
Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah.
I started it
Oh, there's a
years ago.
scene in the beginning of it where he takes the jawbone of a demon, or
Mm,
actually, it's a ghost. It's the physical remains of a ghost of the
mm.
person who died, and he uses the jawbone in a this and holds it
Uh,
like this.
Horned God.
Well, originally it's used to block the evil eye, as I understand the actual Italian folklore behind it, as you're preventing someone from giving you the evil eye. But he uses the jawbone as a sort of totem with which to
This is how you.
block.
That's how
Yeah,
you give.
you go. No,
That's
this
funny.
is how. This is
Damn
we.
shit. Now we're playing with were the Three Stooges actually like mages? Holy shit! That's oh my gosh.
No, the Three Stooges got completely fucked over. They were complete peons.
Yeah, so true. Poor guys.
I
They're
actually
known.
feel really bad for the Three Stooges.
Yeah,
They
they
have
were
a
the wrong
terrible
kind of
life,
Indian.
honestly.
Wrong kind of Indians.
Yeah. Different type of tribe, yeah.
Mm.
Um anyway, let's not talk about the Three Stooges right now. This is important. This is really important because we've talked about, and specifically I referenced earlier our episode on our bonus episode on historyhomos pod.substack.com on the Great Champion. The Great Champion, the legend is of the Great Champion that saved Hadley, Massachusetts. The story, the Great Champion, is a reworking of that legend to be about the Massachusetts rebellion of 1689. Now, that was an open revolt against, on the part of the Massachusetts colonists, against the Dominion of New England, which was the governor of which was a guy named Edmund Andros. He is a big part of this. So I didn't mention him earlier in the story, but Edmund Andros was allied with the Mohawks. And he was at the time only the governor of New York at the time. Um, I also didn't mention this, but Edmund Andros, while the war started off, he mobilized New York forces to try to encroach into Connecticut territory. So this was a very conscious effort on the part of um, the English Empire, essentially, British Empire, to sort of reassert control directly to the crown over what they viewed as, because remember, this is King James at this point, I believe. Yes, it's King James, and he's Catholic, interestingly, but he was a religious tolerant guy, and he wanted to. He was not cool with the. Or actually, he was kind of cool with the Anglicans. But my point is that he basically was like not happy with these guys who were all loyal to Cromwell, essentially, living in New England, and he wanted to get them under the boot again. So the result of King Philip's War was the creation of the Dominion of New England, under which the Puritans completely lost control of their, because you remember in the antinomian crisis, you'll remember that you can only vote if you're a member of the church. And just simply being a landholder wasn't enough. Like if you were not a faithful, like they literally tested you to get into the church. And this was a unique situation that had never been tried anywhere in history or on earth at the time, and probably still to this day. Um, But that all came to an end after King Philip's War because the crown said, look, you guys almost literally lost your entire colony to Indians. We can't trust you to run this shit anymore with your stupid church membership government. And
You've fallen
so
all over yourselves.
so he installs Edmund Andros as being the governor general of all of the colonies of New England, from all the way from Maine, which was at the time Massachusetts, all the way down to New Jersey. So
Which was
notably not, he
Massachusetts.
wasn't in charge of the southern colonies. The Cavaliers were still in charge down there, but that's another conversation. Um, so that
That's our
resulted.
Albion Seed episode.
That's an Albion
We
Seed
legitimately have like a Murray Rothbard level course
episode. I know we
on
do.
New England history. It's fantastic. This
It
is,
kind of is fucking awesome. If you're a big New England head, you love this show.
you know what's funny is some poor kid, some poor kid, he's not going to be at the makeout spot. He's going to be home doing homework on a New England topic.
Yeah,
And he's going
good for
to
him.
he's going to come across the History Homos
I hope
podcast.
he does. I hope he does.
Look, here's looking
Um,
at you, kid.
Yeah, shouts out to you. I hope you get an A on that paper.
I hope you quit school.
Yeah, and just listen to the podcast instead.
That's right.
Okay, my point is that okay, they did revolt against Edmund Andros in 1689. We talked about this extensively in 3 episodes. Actually, it's as a major aspect of the city-state of Boston episode and Albion Seed, and it's also a big part of course the Great Champion reading by Nathaniel Hawthorne. However, the result of it was after the Glorious Revolution, and they were able to become autonomous again. However, they were never able to get the toothpaste back in the tube, and they had to abandon the system of governance in which you had to be a member of the church to be a voting freeman. And it became the law of the land that if you owned land in private documentation, that meant you were a freeman, and ergo you had the right to vote, no matter what type of guy you were. Oh, I also should mention that the whole harrowing experience of King Philip's War really broke those barriers down too, because suddenly, even though that there was all these divisions before with Roger Williams and Hutchinson, and just fishermen who were just not religious, who just came there to work, essentially, sort of transient type figures, they all became English people together now because of the sort of existential threat that the Indian revolts had provided. So all of the things that made New England unique to its founders, such as Winthrop and John Cotton and all these people, those went down the toilet essentially because of the results of this war. In short, and so just again, to return to that covalent bond analogy, this was truly a watershed moment for New England in general, but America, because this opened the door for new kinds of people to come to Massachusetts and New England in general, and therefore it created the world we inhabit today.
You're welcome. World.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you
No,
think we did it? I think that's a pretty good summation. Would you say?
Frankly, yes. I hope what people understand is that what they take away from this is uh, this it's an indelible change
Yeah.
in a corner. I use this metaphor all the time, but it's like rounding a corner and you cannot go back around. The natives will never be the same.
English colonists will never be the same.
New England as it was now it's this new thing. It's 2.0. It's this thing that's been run through the what do you say? The rubric of the crown.
Yeah.
And
It
so
was, yeah. It became
yeah.
very secularized after all that. Well, no, not in culture, in
Hmm.
government, in
Mhm.
governance, and
Mhm.
their economy became extremely secularized. And this led to the rise of people like, the it led to, of course, there was still like a extremely strong Calvinist culture, which led them, because they had this sort of self assurance that they were saved by predestination. They were like, well, I can do pretty much any business practice, and I'm still going to heaven, essentially. But that
What do you
said,
mean? What do you mean there's too much sawdust in your loaf of bread?
yeah, yeah, I know they really did that kind of
Back of
shit,
the
though.
line.
Yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation. I'm happy with how quickly we got through all those things. But I
Oh,
want to just shout out the author of this book, because he really did put it in a extremely cohesive, and he focused not on, like, I'm sure there's a bunch, in fact, that there's a book that he kept referencing in it called Flintlock and Tomahawk, which is considered a standard military history of the war. I'm sure that book is fulfilled with amazingly interesting anecdotes about different battles. And also, I want to give a big shout out to the YouTube channel Fishing Historic Places. Fishing
shout
Historic.
out.
He rocks. If you end up fishing historic places, if you see this episode, leave a comment in
We
the
love you.
comments on YouTube. We love you. And I didn't cover a lot of the stuff you cover in your episodes, or your videos, I should say, about King Philip's War. I'm just going to tell all you guys, if this topic percolated in your brain like it did me, do yourself a favor, go to Fishing Historic Places YouTube channel. He has a playlist on his YouTube channel where he goes to the sites of all different battles throughout the 18 months that comprised King Philip's War, and just gives an amazing firsthand, from the documents, from the primary sources, account of what happens, and also gives sort of his own spin on, like, stuff about the ecology and how that might have impacted the things that happened there, and stuff I could not do in preparation for one episode. And to the point where Fishing Historic Places, he did it over 18 months, I think, like, basically, and it's like a 1-to-1 time frame as to what was going on in the videos. So shouts out to him. And again, I'm sure there's lots more stuff you can learn about the granular incidents of King Philip's War, but I think we did a pretty good meta analysis, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But, we're all just in the wake of fishing historic places. The
We
guy's
all, yeah,
the
we're
guy's a
standing in his
gem,
shadow. We're standing on his shoulders,
uh,
really.
truly. And he's standing in the river.
Literally. Anyway, so I guess I'll wrap it up. www.historyhomospod. No, sorry. www.historyhomos.com for the RSS feed. My bad. Um, we are also available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, and most importantly, if you like the show and you want more of the show than you're already getting, and or you want to just support the show because you like it, go to historyhomospod.substack.com and subscribe there. You get one extra episode per week, and it's like a substantive episode. It's not just some bullshit. Yeah, so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you'd like to buy one of the dwindling supply of t-shirts, email me your size and address at historyhomos@gmail.com. If you'd like to chat with us in our get a hold of us, best way to do it is to go into our group chat on Telegram. T.me/historyhomos is the channel. T.me/historyhomos chat is the chat. We follow us across social media at History Homos Pod. That's Twitter and Instagram. Die with dignity. Patrick, what do you want to say before we go?
And don't forget about the shaddock or haddock. I don't remember the fish either way.
Later,
Later,
homos.
later, homos.